Hey guys, Luxker here. Welcome back to our first or second bonus episode of Xenosaga Pied Piper fan recreation. So last time, I think we beat Voyager, I'm pretty sure. I want to say that, though I think something terrible happened afterwards. Yeah, I'll just say that much. But right here, we're gonna be talking about something pretty interesting, I would say. And with me, I have a guest that will talk about that, and I'm pretty sure anybody that's played this game probably know who this person is. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Cyclone Fox.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here and honored. Yeah, I'm CycloneFox, or you can call me Fox, and I'm the one who made this project, this Xenosaga Pied Piper fan recreation.
Yes, fan recreation, as I keep saying. It's a really good fan recreation, and I don't know if anybody has even started it yet, but if you haven't even played Xenosaga Pied Piper fan recreation, if you're a fan of Xenosaga, you should definitely do that right now. But we're not actually going to go through the game, actually. We're going to actually do something completely different. And by doing that, let's go ahead and start a new game. Wait, what the heck? Where am I? Why is, like, the walls say 1 on it? Why is the ground, like, look beige? Like, what the frick is this? Like, but, oh, good viewer. This is definitely not what you expect when you go into a new game, actually. This is the debug room of Xenosaga Pied Piper fan recreation. It was made because bug testers wanted to find a way to basically test the many bugs that this game originally had and which are now patched out. And they were actually available to get a lot of tools to be able to do multiple things. And we're going to be going through them right now. So, first and foremost, let's go ahead and talk to Bugs over here. You're probably wondering what all these NPCs are doing right here, why Klaus is right here. But I think it's good to start off by talking with Bugs. Captain, let me give you 10 levels, smiley face. Yes, Bugs. We'll get 10 levels already done here. So, when I go into the menu, it shows on the right-hand side that you get 10 levels just like that. This is basically helpful for, like, bug testers to not grind a whole lot in general. So, very cool thing that you can do in the debug room, but there's many cool things you can do right here. We have the save point right here, a free save point, just so you can heal just normally and stuff. Up here, this red square outline right here, if you happen to touch it, you get poisoned. Just like that, and everybody happen to get poisoned, as well as do other effects like mute you and burn you and stuff. So, a lot of interesting things in general that you can do regarding that. These chests down here aren't normal chests, actually. When you open this treasure chest right here, you get to take the items from the treasure chest. So, you go into your items menu, you get basically a whole variety of stuff, so just to be able to use. So, really helpful for testing out the items. These 5 chests right here, they have equipments from each dungeon in the game. They have, like, different types of equipment sets right here. And it can go all the way up to 5, or 5 right here. That's actually a typo right there. It's supposed to say Dungeon 5, but it said 6 there. So yeah, that's the equipment that you can get, just so you don't have to, like, grind for them all. So, this treasure chest right here in the corner changes the shop level. So, you first start out in the shop with just the regular items that you see in Chapter 1. But if you go to the chest over here, you can change it to level 6, and now you get the same items that you can get from basically the end of the game shop. So, yeah, basically all items that you can find here and whatnot. You also start out with 100 kg in the debug room, so really cool that you can do this right here regarding that. Right up here we have Klaus, and you're wondering, why is he, like, on climbing this wall that just says 1s on it, like it's something right out of freaking Mario Sunshine? Well, he will make you lose 5 levels, so if you do that, you can you lose 5 levels just normally, but if you want to regain your levels again, you can go ahead and talk to bugs and just regain them again. So this is just there just to like test the strength of like characters in general and whatnot. If you talk to bugs some more, if you go up to level 99, oh wow, I had to do one more. Okay. So when everybody's up to level 99, this is basically their final stats right here. You don't have to keep grinding up at the freaking final area of the game, Archon Cathedral. So yeah, it's really cool that the debug room can just do this for you in general. So really, really cool stuff. Now, you're probably wondering what these 6 NPCs in the middle of this room are doing here. Like, we have Jan right here, and then we have Eric all the way at the end. So, let's go ahead and talk to them. And, right here, you get to choose which chapter and sequence you want to start at, as well as the location as well. If you want to go to a specific location, you can go ahead and hit more right there. And then, like, the same thing happens with Eric as well. So, oh yeah. I guess yeah, that's right. These two basically just say the same thing. This is actually meant to be sequence 2 and not sequence 1. So, pretty cool stuff in general. But we're not done with the debug room here quite yet, because there's actually a second area that you can go to. Right here. This room is way, way bigger in general. So, this is how big this room is compared to the other one where it's just one screen. Well, here we have multiple screens, and we're also gonna go through them right now. This rock right here in the corner basically tests out the effects that these crystals do, which is like an ice effect. Similar to like an effect that happens when you destroy barrels in Xenosaga Episode 3. It's like an ice effect or something. Right down here in the bottom left corner, we have an enemy right here that will follow you. So these are like follower NPCs. It just basically is here to test chasing you around, and Cyclone Fox actually has a story regarding this this enemy. Do you want to care to talk about this enemy here, Cyclone Fox?
The reason why I made this room originally was when I was implementing the methods to make these follower NPCs over here. And I needed a little bit of a big room with walls and stuff where I can test out how it feels, how much they should follow you, how fast they should be, and stuff like that.
Yeah, really cool in general. But yeah, you can also use this barrel right here to stop the follower NPCs, and you can also fight in a battle if you ever do so wish to do that. So we're not gonna do that right here because like we're just here just testing out a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, sure, why not? Let's go ahead and all right, there we go. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and initiate a takedown. All right. So, let's go ahead and do some talk about some more things right here. So, these little chests that are along the wall right here, let's go ahead and open this first one, which will get you the scope. This is basically here to test out the scope's functionality, among other like scoping items as well. So, this second chest right here, basically tests out the blinking function. Like after you're in a battle and you get hit and you get hit right here, it just basically tests out the blinking part of it all. And then this final chest right here tests out the area location names that are written out in text like this. So it's really just a way to just show that out, as well as the small little blips and whatnot. So
Yeah, it might seem trivial, but in the original RPG Maker, you can center text, and this was when I was trying out the function to make the text appear centered.
yeah, very cool that worked out like that. So, and then in the corner right here, we have another barrel. This is basically here to test out the functionality regarding this barrel right here. But interestingly enough, we have these smaller looking sprites right in the corner right here. I have no idea why these smaller sprites of the playable characters are doing like right in the bottom right corner. So, Cyclone Fox, do you want to talk about these right here? These smaller NPCs?
These are actually there just for the compatibility back to the demo save of the game. As you remember, back at the end of last year, I think, I'm not actually sure when I released the demo, the game was still looking quite differently. Like the sprites, for example, they were still smaller, and the smaller sprites are actually different image files than the new, bigger ones. And the only reason they are set over there is that I still have them in the game, and when I redeploy the full version of the game, I wanted to still be compatible with the old save files. But in the old save files, they will tell the game to look for these old, smaller pictures, and so to not make the game crash when you pull up the load menu in the full version and have a demo save in your save folder, I needed to have these old images still in the game, and I just put them there out of the way, out of bounds, so they're not in the way.
Yeah, it's funny how they were just in there, and the only way for those old saves to work is just basically have them right there. So, really cool, interesting like developer technique in general. So, but yeah, we got a few more things to talk about. Namely, Cyclone Fox actually mentioned this earlier regarding this Melis right here on the left part. Everyone will now show their field skill in the menu. So basically, that option shows you that you have your field skills unlocked right out of the bat if you ever do so want to test them out. So this middle Malice right here, I'm going to go ahead and talk to her real quick. Hello, Captain. This is a test for the dialogue blips you should be hearing now. You mean those little blip sounds? Why do mine sound so strange? What do you mean? They are, I don't know, darker? Oh yeah, probably because you have a darker voice. I see. Lore connections right there. Xenosaga is a dark game, and Jan has a dark voice. Good for you telling me that there, Melis. The Melis on the right here turns on your sneaking suit. So basically, this has you turn on your sneaking suit whenever you encounter enemies as well. So really handy thing that you can do there regarding that. And finally, we have these three NPCs right here. So if you talk to this one on the left, Marco right here, he basically shows you to turn off the battle music. So I'm actually going to go in and out just to respond to the follow NPC right here. So when you get into a battle, you get some new music playing here in the background, which is the same music that you hear in cutscenes and stuff. This is basically here to test out like the transition part of the battle theme to the area theme to the battle theme. So nothing really super special here, but in the middle right here, we have yet another NPC to talk to, and his name is Bob. I wonder who that's supposedly referring to. So, this right here, if you go ahead and choose this track, it plays like a little tune right here. Really calm and soothing feeling theme here, I guess. But when you choose that you want to add the sync test right here, it plays a little bit of percussion in the background. So really cool way of showing the way of how percussion instruments sync with the actual like background music as well. And then we have Bob on the right here that basically tests the crossfadingness of the music. So we can like choose to crossfade into Sharon right here, and crossfading into supposedly this is called Sad Theme. I don't think that's what it's called in the actual OST. So, but yeah, really cool NPCs right here. But I have a question to ask Cyclone Fox regarding these NPCs. Did Wow Bob Wow want all these music debugging features in here, like all of these in here? It just seems really helpful to him just having that. So, can you give your thoughts about these NPCs?
When Bob requested all these little features like the crossfading and stuff like that, whenever I implemented a new method to sync up music or to fade music into another to crossfade, because that's something RPG Maker doesn't automatically do, and so I did some programming tricks to have two buffers at the same time and sync from one theme into the other. Of course, I could just show it to him, and that's what I normally did first, that I recorded a little bit of gameplay and sent it to him, and he would say what he liked or didn't like about it. But he also requested me to add some of these NPCs into the debug room so he could go ahead and try out things with the music himself.
Yeah, really cool stuff regarding that. So let's go ahead and go back in and out. But one more thing I want to talk about regarding the debug room, actually. If you didn't see from the credits of this fan recreation, I happen to be one of the bug testers of this fan recreation. So I was actually testing out bugs for the fan recreation myself just to see if they work properly, because I was definitely really involved with this. Like, I wanted to see it all the way through to completion because I really liked what the demo was originally. I even said it in a previous Xeno News video that like I was really interested in bug testing, and then here I am. Was a bug tester here. I also requested this this debug room as well because like I thought it would actually be easier for myself and others to be able to go back into specific places that had bugs and be able to just find those bugs and show them to CycloneFox and just be able to see where those bugs are quickly and have CycloneFox fix them. So really cool addition that I suggested, and like I definitely think this was a worthwhile addition as well. Like, bug testers have a lot of features just to be able to show here, and it has a lot of personality having the NPCs here, and I really did enjoy what CycloneFox put in here in general. So really good stuff, Fox. So do you have anything you want to say regarding the entire debug room before we go on to our next part?
Yeah, thank you for your suggestion. Anyway, it was a great suggestion to have this, because in the beginning, when I asked some people to test the game, I went at it pretty naively and just thought, well, they could just keep save games around or something like that to go back to specific places in the game. But the longer or the more new features or new versions I uploaded, it was very not much fun for the testers like Luxury here to go back and retest certain sequences and stuff. And so they came up with the idea if it would be possible to have something like this, a way to go back to all the old places and stuff. And this room specifically here was created. The room down south, which I connected to this room, that was a room I made much earlier in development. Like I said, I needed a kind of a parkour when I firstly implemented this follower NPC over here. But I went back to this room whenever I had some new feature I wanted to test out, and placed a little NPC or a little chest or something here to look at that feature specifically without going into the game and looking at the feature in the actual cutscene where it's used, for example.
Yeah, really cool stuff in general right here. So I think it's a good time to finally move on to our next part. So now, I want to go ahead and talk with Cyclone Fox about multiple questions I want to ask him. Like, I think it's like, how many? Maybe like, maybe about like 20, 21 questions. So it's a lot of questions I want to ask him because I feel like it's important to talk about like the development side behind the game itself, as along with many other things too. In the background, I'm gonna go ahead and roll over like various bugs that I found while I talk with Cyclone Fox about many different types of things. I'll also have like gameplay footage as well, just to fill things out, just in case the bugs didn't like last as long. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk with Cyclone Fox. So my first question, Fox, is what was the inspiration for the battle system used for the fan recreation?
Yeah, of course. I think most who played the recreation can probably guess, but it was obviously inspired a lot by Xenosaga Episode 3, so the third main game. The reason for that is when I first played Episode 3 back in the old day in 2006, I felt like a lot of developers of this genre of JRPGs were deviating more and more from the original Dragon Quest-like formula. At that place and time back then, I didn't like it very much. I liked it a lot that Monolith did the exact opposite over there. They had some kind of special battle systems in episode 1 and 2 and all the way back in Xenogears, especially in episode 2. That was a great deviation from the rest of the systems. And episode 3 did the exact opposite. Instead of deviating even further and being more experimental, they went back to a very classic battle system, and in my opinion they made the perfect version of that and streamlined it a lot. And I thought back then that I liked it. I thought it was quite enjoyable, even though we know the story. Monolith then went on and made Xenoblade, which deviates a lot from the old turn-based formula. But I, on the other hand, wanted more games like Episode 3 that's so classic and so streamlined and fast-paced and feel so nice, in my opinion. The only other series I can think of that did a similar-ish thing was the Persona series, but Episode 3 was, in my mind, a very, very streamlined and nice version of the classic turn-based JRPG system.
Yeah.
And I liked that so much when I wanted to make something like an Episode 3 like, you might say.
Yeah, and going back to the Persona thing, it's really interesting that, like, yeah, I think it's in the Xeno Chat podcast with you and Tyler and all those guys. They were talking about, like, the Persona-like reference that is in Pied Piper with you chasing Klaus's shadow. I thought it was a really clever way to tie it back to that series. So
oh yeah, that's true.
Really cool stuff. But yeah, I really enjoyed the battle system. I think it is a pretty decent battle system for what you can really do turn-based wise. I don't think you really need like a huge turn-based battle system to like make it interesting. Like Pied Piper's really not like that in general. So
yeah.
So my next question is, what was the experience like fixing bugs?
In a software project like a video game, which is basically a very, very huge software project, there are bound to be bugs, especially if you make the game mostly yourself and you just do these garage tests by yourself and you overlook a lot of stuff. So it's very important to have other people look at what you do, because if only you, the developer, are the person who tests your own software, you can't find the bugs because you will always use your software in the same way. So it's important to have other people try out the software or try out the game, and you will oftentimes be surprised how other people use your game or your software. It's just normal business. You have to do these kinds of bug tests.
Yeah, I mean, I was one of the bug testers, just looking through the game, just trying to see if this game has many bugs, and there were a lot of bugs in the original game. I already talked about this in the Xeno Chat podcast, but in case you guys didn't watch that, there was a specific section of Chapter 1, Sequence 2, where, like, I didn't know what was going on. Like, I tried multiple times. It was during the Baldur boss fight, or, like, before the Baldur boss fight. But the cutscene just wouldn't load up for some reason. It would just go to, like, a black screen, and I couldn't really figure out what that was going on. I originally thought it was the alarm in the background that was causing the bug, and, like, I talked to CycloneFox about it, but it happened that he told me that it was actually like a caching error, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was also a nasty bug because it didn't happen in my game, and I think it didn't happen in a lot of the other testers' game, but it only happened for you. And I think you were testing on in the web version, and maybe on a specific browser. I'm not actually sure. So it was, for the longest time, it was very hard to recreate this bug, because you just telling me that there is a bug is not always helpful. It is very helpful because you also provided a screenshot with the error message on it. Something I hope the players now will never experience or never see. But
Right.
yeah, but you could show me the error message, and that would be a great clue for me to know where to look. To make sure that the bug is actually tested, you need to find a way to recreate the bug on your own rig, have a way to go in there, debug the bug while it's happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a pretty difficult bug in general to get to, and like I probably already showed it like in the background, but yeah, it was pretty aggravating a lot of the time. So Cyclone Fox, going through all these bugs, having to be able to like track them all just to make sure they're fixed or not. He used a specific program that he was using to track all these bugs. Do you want to go ahead and talk about it?
So in general, I was talking about software projects before. If you look at the game as a software project, you have to keep in mind that it's a very big project with thousands of lines of code, and in the case of an RPG like Pied Piper, it also has 11,000 lines of dialogue in just one language. So there's a lot to keep track of. It is important to use some kind of project management tool. Maybe developers know of sites like Jira, for example. I used the site Codex. It's written like code and deck, as in a card game deck. This is a project management tool which is by gamers for gamers. It's very gamified and looks all fancy and stuff. It was a lot of fun for me using it, and I can really recommend it. But for my project, there were a few very specific problems I had with it, because my game is all non-profit, and I couldn't pay anyone or put in or didn't want to put a lot of investment into it, other than my time, of course. I couldn't go for the premium plans of that, and so I was very limited in how many people I could invite to the Codex page. But for that, they provide. This is starting to sound like advertisement, but they provide a way to still give me a way to include test players like Luxcurry here, because they give you a Discord bot, and the people at the Vector Translations Discord, where we went, which we used as a way to communicate, I could install a bot over there for my codex page, and then the bug testers could just go into a channel, use bot commands to report bugs with screenshots and a description, etc. And the bot would automatically create a bug report in my codex page, so I could keep track of bugs. This is a very important process, because you need to keep track which bugs exist, which you're working on, which finished, and have a little bit of a room to talk with the bug testers, and all that stuff really streamlined the way how we could work with new features or bugs or suggestions and things like that. So that's a very important thing, I would say, whenever you're making such a big project.
Yeah, I find that the Codex box, which is called Decky, that's in the Discord server, I find that really useful in general. Like, you can just post a video or picture, make a title and description, and you can make a thread about that in the Discord channel, and I find that way helpful, and I assume that it would have helped you too, Fox, in general, that
Yeah.
regarding those things. So really good bot in general. If you're a developer and you want multiple bug testers helping the developer or yourself, I highly recommend using Codex. If you're going to be a for-profit business, it's a really helpful tool to use. So my next question: what was something that you wanted to do right with the fans of Xenosaga while making this fan recreation?
Yeah, at the beginning, when I started this project, I had no idea how well the acceptance of such a fan game would actually be. If people would actually like it, or if they would hate me for doing it, I don't know. And so I think, in hindsight, it was a pretty high risk to actually go out of my way and replace the original battle system with my own stuff and say I don't want the original, or don't want to go for the same battle system, but instead do something that I like more, which is episode 3 like. Back then, at least, I still had the excuse to say that the original game is lost media, and I couldn't possibly recreate all the original gameplay because it's lost. And that is true for 99% of the game development. The bad thing is, as you know, in 1 month before I released my game, the original was actually discovered, which is a great thing, obviously. But this motivated me even more to actually make a point and show that this is a good decision that I made, that I brought in all these quality of life things and streamlined the game. And I wanted to make it as good and that it feels better and is a bit faster and easier to use than the original game, and maybe a more enjoyable experience, so people wouldn't question my decision there. And another thing, that is something where I made the conscious decision to actually make that right for the fans. That is the story. All the cutscenes in the game, like 99.9% accurate to the original. I made extra sure in every cutscene to sometimes go out of my way to even count frames, how long it takes for a character to turn to left, to right, etc., and have every text box as in the original over there. Of course, my game looks different. It has a different aspect ratio, and the music is different, and the character portraits are different, obviously. But the cutscene itself, what happens there in the scene, there I made very sure to have that very, very accurate to the original game, even though I didn't have any original code or something like that.
Very cool. I really liked what you did regarding making that, like, the fans are happy with the writing and the style of the game. I really appreciated that, and I'm pretty sure the fans also appreciated it too as well because of feedback going into it. So I want to talk about some programming techniques that you mentioned to me, like when we were talking about things earlier. So I want to talk about the intro with the ship moving in Chapter 1, Sequence 1. You told me that you had something special regarding that sequence, like a secret programming technique that you thought about while going through it. Can you explain that part?
Yeah, if you played the demo, you might have seen that the sound in the intro sequence is very strange. I wanted to try to pan the sound from right to the center of the screen. And this is actually something where my skills with the RPG Maker weren't originally where they are now. And this is actually something where I didn't do, I would say, actual programming, nothing in JavaScript or anything. It's just made inside the visual scripting you do in the RPG Maker. I found a solution to use a loop over there and do very minuscule steps to pan the sound over the screen. Yeah, which was not originally, or where my skills were lacking when I still were doing the demo. So I found that kind of technique I found it very interesting. I think I learned a lot over the project with things like that.
Yeah, I really liked that sequence. It was really smooth, and I can tell that you put a good amount of effort into that. So, do you have any other interesting programming techniques that you want to share regarding the Pied Piper fan recreation?
I don't know about programming techniques per se, but I could talk about a little bit about things I liked programming for this game. One of the things I had the most fun with, the way the music transitions. We saw it a little bit in the debug room over there before, and I think it added a lot to the more, I personally would say, to a modern feel for the game, to have these way to transition from one track into another and to sync them up and stuff like that. That was a lot of fun. I teased a little bit when we were in the debug room that I added a second music buffer in there and synced up the two buffers and did something there that was quite fun. Another thing I really enjoyed was implementing these follower NPCs. That's something I always like making. And of course, in my professional job, uh, I'm programming a lot of UI stuff, and for the game here, programming game UI was obviously fun too. I mean, we talked a little bit about Persona before, and I'm a big fan of that. And um, I wanted to make my menus also as fancy as possible in the short amount of time.
Yeah, the UI looked really good. It definitely felt like it was something straight out of an Atlas game. So, you know,
Thanks for saying that.
but yeah, I like the menu. So, and the UI elements regarding that. So, like, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it. Were there any difficulties during development that you'd like to share that haven't been talked about otherwise?
I think there aren't a lot of, other than the bug we mentioned before, I think there aren't a lot of difficulties with programming per se, but something that was a difficult thing for me to do was making sprites in general, because that's a field where I'm not as experienced in. And yeah, like I said before, I during this project I learned a lot and improved my skills there. Making these sprites was something I certainly didn't expect to be as difficult as it was in the end. The game has especially these character sprites, because there are dozens of characters in the game which all need foresights and walking cycles, and that accumulates to hundreds of little individual sprites which I had to make. I had a little bit of help from other people there, and that's also always the field where I was screaming for help, because it's just so much. But in the end, I ended up making, I don't know, like a rough estimate, like 90% of the sprites of the game I had to make myself.
But yeah, it's good to actually have some artists with you as well making those sprites. I know Wate did a lot of sprites, but was it like, did like Corianders or like MC Danger Noodle do sprite work or something, or what do they do regarding that?
Yeah, Water helped me with some of the background sprites. Yeah, Water and MC Danger Noodle both made backgrounds for me, and the other people like Corianders or the other people helped me with some enemy sprites, some character sprites. Yeah, and something like that.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm glad that they were able to help you. I think they did a great job helping you with that difficulty, too. So,
Yeah.
my next question is, were you responsible for the German localization or translation of Pied Piper? And how were you able to get the French and Spanish translations, as well as the new Chinese translation for the fan recreation?
This is like an announcement. Chinese will come soon. I still have to ask them if it's traditional Chinese or simplified. I'm not sure about that.
That's a good idea, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not as knowledgeable about the language, so I don't know if there's an easy way to translate from one into another, or if. But maybe that goes too deep into it.
Yeah.
It's all very, very much in the making right now. But yeah, as you mentioned, the German localization, that was the first one that was original for this project in particular. The English localization is also an original, but in the beginning, when I started making the game, the lead development language was English, because first and foremost, I wanted to make it for the Western audience, because the game never got released in the West. But very early in development, I also wanted to make sure that Japanese people can also play it, because it was lost media for them as well, not only for us, but also for the Japanese people. And as there is already a Japanese version, it would be a great loss if the game wasn't playable in Japanese. So I implemented a way to localize all the text, And while I did that, I also rewrote the English script from the original translation, which was, I think, on the Keitai wiki, the one that I got it from Valak Turtle's YouTube video. Where he already made his own modifications of it and slight improvements. I was thinking at the time that maybe some portions are still a bit too stiff, so I rewrote the English translation. And because I had implemented a way for the player to change the language inside the game, I also wanted to add more languages, and it was only natural for me to add my own native tongue, which is German. And so I made a German translation as well, which I also rewrote at some point. So it's all very iterative. The English version was rewritten multiple times. The German version was rewritten twice, and later on I implemented the localization in a way, or in my mind I always wanted to have it so open that other people from other languages, from other countries, can also easily add their own language without any need to recompile the game or anything like that. Just by opening up a simple table file in the game files, just a CSV file, I think it is, comma separated, yeah, a CSV, and they could just add their own language to it, and the game would automatically understand that there's a fourth, a fifth, a sixth language added, and it would appear in the menu and would be good to go, and they could just add their own language and do stuff like that. And back then, I didn't really believe that people would actually go out of the way and do that. But shortly after, or even during the development of the game in the last few months, I think the first one was Dams50 came to me, who's a French guy who offered to add their French localization of Pied Piper into my game. And so French was added even before the release. It wasn't ready at the release. I think it was at 50 or 75% or something. But around the release of the game, it was already finished. And after the game released, Jukino JD, which is a known YouTuber in the French Xeno community, also reached out to me and offered that their team would make a Spanish translation for Pied Piper. So I was there with already, I think, 5 different languages, and I'm really stunned by this. I'm
I know you
very,
already
very
talked
happy.
about the Chinese translation in the beginning, but how did you come across the person who was going to be translating into Chinese?
They also reached out to me.
I think that somebody brought them here, brought them into the Vector translation Discord server, and I think they recommended like a Chinese translation because they were also like translating the other Xenosaga games. Like I know they were working on like an episode 3 translation or something like that.
Yeah, they already translated episode 1 and 2, the PS2 games, and I think they want to start or just started working on 1 and 2, the DS game, and also want to make episode 3 as far as I remember. I don't know how to pronounce the name. I think it's in they're called Livwa. But I'm not sure if that's how it's supposed to be. Yeah, just wanted to say they also brought 1 or 2 friends into our Discord, and the big dream is that both the Chinese Xeno community and the Western community.
Exactly, and that's why it's appreciated. Having multiple translations for one game is definitely needed. So, speaking of translations, so Valak Turtle, who's the person responsible for the new English translation for Pied Piper, which it's still in development right now. He's just been really busy. How did he help you with the development of the English localization for the fan recreation?
Other than offering his help in general with talking about specific parts here and there, he also provided me with his translation tables on his Google Docs, and that was very helpful for me because before that I only had, if I wanted to get the Japanese script into my game, I had to use some OCR software or actually write full script of the game in Japanese online, which I could just copy and paste into my own tables, let alone any mapping between the English and the Japanese ones. If you look up the English translation on wikis, you will probably only find the Chaos Lands translation without any mapping or way to see what was the original Japanese text before that. So I had to make all that myself, but Vala could provide me with a great deal of help there. Of course, his own tables were also based on OCR software, and there were some little mistakes here and there. I had Forrest look over the script of the Pied Piper recreation, and he would provide a lot of feedback and corrections, which I in turn sent back to Valak so he could correct his Japanese part of his tables. And though it was a great back and forth, yeah, that was basically a lot of help he gave me for the
Yeah,
project.
Valacturo was a huge help in general for vector translations, and
Yeah.
especially this project as well. So, if Valacturo, if you ever watch this video, definitely you deserve a lot of praise, man. You deserve a lot of praise. So you're really the goat of the Xeno translation community. So
That is true.
So my next question is, why did you decide not to have things that were in the original game, like random encounters and the elevator in the building in the Oriental City, among other things? Like, why did you not decide to add those things, like, as an option or whatnot?
For the random encounter, I think that's an easy one because I personally don't. This goes back to the other point, but I personally don't like random encounters a lot, and just to
Which is completely understandable, yeah.
I think that's a general sentiment in the JRPG community, but I understand if some people like it. I think that's totally fine. But implementing a way to bring them back, like a switch in the options, this is something that has been considered, and there's still an open card about that in my codex page, like a classic mode or something like that. But would be a lot of effort just to rebalance the game around that, and so I didn't do that for now, and it's not very high in my priorities list. And
You're good.
the elevator feature in that dungeon, I think it's in the second chapter. Yeah, in the first part of the second chapter. The elevator feature, that's a very interesting thing that I didn't know about when I made the game. When I made the game, I saw that there is an elevator in the map right before you go into the Klaus sequence. But I didn't know what that was for. You were the one who later told me that this was actually an alternative way to get up
Yeah.
this building.
Mhm.
But because I didn't know what it is, I just edited a shortcut to go back to the first floor. Then you could use the save crystal there to heal yourself up and have a faster way to get back up to the room when you're looking for golden chests and stuff later after revisiting the dungeon.
Have you ever thought about implementing like that feature? Like I mentioned in the Let's Play that in the original game you have to fight like a gauntlet of enemies before you reach the top instead of going through like a multiple puzzle rooms. Have you thought about implementing something like that in the in that elevator section?
Sadly, only briefly. So this isn't. I have thought about it, but it's maybe I could add it in the future, but no promises there because it's still a very early idea. On the other hand, though, maybe it's not that hard to just add the same way that it was done before, and then from then on proceed as you normally would. Maybe, but no promises. But it might be an interesting idea. I have to go back and look at how it was originally done again.
Right. I thought it was an interesting thing that that was in the original game that was decided that was not in the game. Like I said before, that going through that dungeon kind of felt like a dungeon you would go through in like Pokemon or something like that, like the Gen 3 Game Boy Advance games, like I mentioned. And I thought like You know, I kind of want to have the player have a choice. Like, why not just take the elevator and fight a whole gauntlet of enemies instead of going up and having to do multiple puzzle rooms? So I think that would be a cool feature in my opinion, but it's not like something that like needed to be in there really. So
And you would also miss quite a few of interesting chests, maybe.
yeah, that too, and well, segment address as well too. So my next question is, where did the idea to add skill trees come from?
Yeah, first of all, I really like skill trees in JRPGs. They're a great way of player expression, in my opinion. I always love it in games like Final Fantasy X or even the mainline Xenosaga games or in Dragon Quest XI or whatever. I always feel a great amount of satisfaction when I have a skill tree and can use it that way. And when I made the recreation project, I wanted to make it as much of a full Xenosaga experience as possible. Of course, the main goal was to recreate the story in a playable way. But when I had a little bit of time, I also wanted to add a few of these features like the EVS feature, the segment doors, and the skill trees to make Pied Piper feel more like a full Xenosaga experience.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the addition of skill trees. I actually kind of didn't intend that to be a thing until you added it, like, in the full game. So in the original game, like, you would actually get your techs and ether by just simply leveling up, and apparently it felt a little bit like there was like no strategy to like decide what you want to use it for. Like, you don't want to use all ethers or techs, but you can just you want to use like only some or more of them. So it was a really cool feature that I didn't expect, and it really helped me with the guides as well, trying to talk about each character in the guides. So really helpful thing that you added there. Probably helps out the gameplay functionality even more so. My next question, you wanted to have Joaquin say dad instead of papa originally. Why was that changed? Because now it still says dad, so...
That's a very classic example of the good old translation versus localization problem fans like to talk about. In the Japanese original game, Joaquin calls his dad Papa, and that's also how the Chaos Lands translation translated it as, because I guess it's more faithful to the original to have the exact same word actually over there. But I had a few counterpoints to that. First of all, saying Papa in Japanese is an Anglicism. I am not sure about the pronunciation there.
Anglicism.
Sorry if I
Anglicism. Yep.
It's not a native Japanese word, obviously. It's an Anglicism, and in Japan it sounds more modern and something a young boy would say to his dad, while in the West, in English, you'd actually use dad instead of that at that point, because it would sound a little more modern. And and another great reason for changing that is also that in the that's the easier reason, I would say. In the
Yep.
Western, the English script of episode 1, there is the flashback scene for Ziggy when he remembers his son, and he calls him dad over there too. So there's a consistency reason for me to also have the script be very much the same as that. And for me, that's the even more important reason, to have it consistent with the rest of the series. But in general, when I rewrote the English script, I didn't go out of my way and do a lot of, political agenda changing of things or something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. Maybe that was one instance where I actually I think I never told you that, but there was one instance in the game where I actually made something that is a big change in my opinion, and that is in the first chapter in the hospital meeting between where Jan and Sharon meet for the first time. In Japan, it is much much more normal. This might be a cultural thing, and maybe I'm butchering things, but it's something that I saw in a lot of Japanese games. For example, in Final Fantasy VII Remake, it's very similar. There are sometimes moments where a character would say to another character something like, "Your face is looking weird," or something like that. I think in our Western culture, it would seem a little bit excessive to go out of your way and tell someone else, your face is weird, or your language is rather harsh. Where in Japanese, it would be much more normal. And there's a moment where Sharon is really angry that all these children died, and in the Japanese script, Jan tells her that the way she says that is not very woman-like, I would say. And in my version, I thought that this might be problematic, or at least I think a lot of nuance gets lost in translation if I try to translate that. So instead, I went out of my way and just had Jan say ... and nothing more, just to make her react to that and see, oh, maybe I acted out of character. And in the next line, she apologizes and says, I'm sorry. I'm just so angry at moments like that." And I thought that was a much more elegant way to do it, instead of actually translating what he says in Japanese.
Yeah, I prefer
But
that too.
that's the only instance where I actually went out of my way and changed something.
Yeah, no, I prefer that. I'm not like one of those people that like wants a political agenda added to your English localizations, because of course I want it to be as
Yeah.
completely faithful to the original translation as possible, but it really depends on the cultural aspect regarding how it's localized and translated. I know people probably won't agree with me on this, but it's really has to do with the cultural appropriations part of it all. And I personally just have Jan being silent there instead of saying, why you not look like, why don't you sound like a woman? Like, that does not sound right to me. It just doesn't sound right. But that's my personal taste on it, so hopefully I won't get too many comments regarding that, but I shouldn't, because nobody watches these videos anyway, besides you. So
I'm sorry in advance.
no, I just wanted to say
But
that.
yeah. But in general, I really don't want to put any of my own views or stuff into the script. I want to take it as face value as possible and just localize that and try to find a way in each of the languages I translated to find a similar way to get over the original intent
Right.
or the original message.
All right, so let's go ahead and head into my next question. What advice did you get from other Let's Players on the Pied Piper fan recreation that you implemented in later patches?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It's not like they actually go out of their way and give you advice. At least not if maybe if they know me personally or talk to me like you did, it might happen. But normally they wouldn't be. They would not give actual advice to the game developer that they should do something different. But what's most valuable to me while watching Let's Plays is that I see mistakes of the game, or things that may irritate certain players, and I can go ahead and take that and put it in future versions. For example, one of the more recent example was that one of the last bosses was a big HP sponge, and it took a lot out of the pace at that moment, that the boss just had tons of HP and was resistant to almost anything. And so I did a little bit
You're
of...
talking about Alcionius, right?
Exactly. He was very HP spongy, and I went out of my way and rebalanced that a little bit. I think that's also a reason why I wanted to add a skill like Blood Dancer, so the player has the ability to actually double his damage output so late in the game.
Yeah, that would have been really helpful. I know I did the Alcionius fight before the patch came out that fixed his balancing, so he was a little bit harder for me, and it took a little bit longer. But now it's much easier. So, but yeah, good advice there from, well, not advice, but just watching people's let's plays. But I know Bob actually gave you a lot of advice in general while he was going through the game. Do you want to go ahead and talk about it?
Yeah, that's true. And what was the most helpful was when the game was complete and finished and playable to from front to back, from start to back. He did a playthrough of his own and kept up a Google Doc. Which he shared with me, where he made a lot of notes in each scene. What he thinks could be improved in certain transitions, or some weirdness that he saw here and there, and also sometimes if he thought that a different music track would fit better in that moment. And obviously he's the one who made the music for the game, so I trust him on this one. And you could say he also took over some responsibilities as a music director even. He's not only the person who made the music, he also directed the music a little bit at that point. And sometimes he even went out of his way and straight up just created an entirely new track if he thought that the scene would sound much better with something that isn't there yet. So there were 3 or 4 tracks that weren't there when the game originally launched, that he just made because he thought it would sound better if he made new tracks for that. So there's some tracks in the game that end up playing just once or maybe twice.
Yeah, Bob, I know, put a lot of effort into like not only just the music direction, but like just helping you out, and him actually preparing a doc for you is pretty interesting. Just it kind of makes me think like Bob might be like a co-director or something of this game
Yeah.
if you think about it.
Yeah, if you think about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely like Bob's input there. So my next question is going back to the programming side of things. What was that strange code that you used for figuring out what kind of controller the player was using to play the fan recreation?
The, how should I say? The problem is with controllers, you don't know what kind of hardware your end user is using. If you're making a game for console, it's very, very straight up. It's all normalized, and you only have um, a set amount of controllers that people will be using, and even the unofficial ones are made to emulate the official ones. So you always have the same button layout, etc. But if you're making a game for the PC, you have to find a way to, or you have to, yeah, you have to set yourself certain targets. And sure, you could just program all your game just for the Xbox controller, for example, because that's like the standard go-to controller on the PC. But this being Xenosaga, it was important for me at least to allow people to use their PlayStation controller and have this original, or as original as possible, experience with the game with it. Even though I didn't switch the accent circle button, but you could remap that and do that yourself if you so prefer. But for now, I didn't add a way to also switch out the symbols. So wait. Actually, you can. Actually, it's you can you can just
Oh,
remake. Yeah, I just remember myself. I also would switch the symbols. So if you prefer that, go ahead and do that. But of course, I want to make the experience with the game as smooth as possible, and you should just download it and start it up, and without changing much of the settings, just go ahead and play and have the best experience. So I did my best to still find a way to identify which controller you're using. And of course, I'm limited here myself. I have a PlayStation 4 controller, PlayStation 5 controller, and a Nintendo Switch Pro controller, an Xbox controller. I have some controllers, some of the ones that are more mainstream and can test with them. But there are also different behavior if you play in the web version or if you play on the MacBook, for example. So the only thing I could do to somehow identify the controller is to look into on a web toolkit, which is something similar to a web browser, the engine which is running in a web browser, and so I could ask the web toolkit which controller is connected, or if multiple controllers are connected, and there's not one clear way to identify what is an Xbox controller or what is a Switch controller or whatever. You could just look up what the device says, what its description is. I'm not sure how they are exactly, but maybe a PlayStation controller would not say PlayStation or Sony. It would say DualSense, for example, just as an example. So I had to add some really not so nice code to
Oh.
somehow figure out a map of what descriptions might mean what controller. And I hope that in 80 or 90% of the times I am right and hitting the right controller. So if you start up the game for the first time with a PlayStation controller, you should see X, circle, square, and triangle buttons in your UI. You should, but I'm not guaranteeing it. But if you don't, and you want to change the names of the buttons, you can still do that in the controller menu. If you change anything there, it will override what I tried to identify the controller as. But from the default, it should work with most of these mainstream controllers. And if it's something that the game doesn't recognize, it will default back to whatever the Xbox controller is. Oh, of course, if you're using some X input plugin thing or X input device program, like for example, like launching the game over Steam, that whole code I made will not work. It will always recognize your PlayStation controller as an Xbox controller. So that's something to consider. But if you're starting the game just from your desktop as vanilla as possible, it should hopefully recognize your controller.
Yeah.
But that was quite a murky code, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I always was wondering what developer like technique or like code you were using to be able to recognize that controllers, because ever since I heard that from the Xeno Chat podcast episode, I was like, man, that seemed really interesting. Maybe I should talk more about it with Cyclone Fox, but yeah, it's good to know that like it was something that you implemented to recognize like which controller you were using, and like being able to, like, if you're playing it on Steam, just make sure it's like got the right controller button layout. So really handy tool that you use.
But maybe sorry, maybe if there are programmers if someone is listening to this and he's touching his head and face palming and thinking, oh, it's so easy just to do this or that, you can reach out to me and tell me if you know of a better way to actually identify the right controller. Keep in mind, the game engine, like I said, is running over the web toolkit, so it has to be a way that works like you would recognize the controller in JavaScript.
Our next question: had you ever thought about submitting the Pied Piper fan recreation into a reward show, despite the legal ramifications from Bandai Namco?
I'm not actually sure how that works, but I think that as a game developer, you would normally not submit your game to an award show. I think these things are typically made by the press or the industry and have very different interest groups from something like a fan project like this. But I think as a game developer, you could submit your game into contests and sites like like itch.io or the RPG Maker as well. I think they do things like that from time to time. But I don't know whether my game would be a good candidate for that. I think the reason why the people like it as much as they do is because of the fact that it's a lost story that they can finally experience. So I think it's very special interest. Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was always curious about that, so thank you for clarifying that for me. So, next question. Have you ever played the original Xenosaga Pied Piper, or only just watched Keiju's video series to learn how to recreate Pied Piper?
Originally, I watched the Keiju's video series, or more specifically, Valak Turtle's version of that with the English subtitles. But as soon as the original game was dumped a month before the release, I actually set that up on my PC as well and tried it out, and it was quite an interesting experience because I already knew all the areas and knew where to go and from which event to which to get by fast, like the ways that I would normally take in my own game that I recreated up to that point for over 1.5 years. I could now take in an in an entirely different game. It was pretty strange. But yeah, I did that, but not I haven't done a complete playthrough of it yet. I played most of the parts here and there. With the structure of the game, you can actually jump forward to another part without actually having a save game, as you know. But I didn't do a complete playthrough yet, and like I said, I didn't know about that sequence with the elevator we talked about even after the game released.
Yeah, so I just, you know, typically when developers are remaking a game, like, I know it's not there for the most part, but it's like a recommendation on my end. It would be wise to experience the original game first before making a recreation, but since was different, this was made before the dump of the original game came out, it was a little bit interesting because you had to rely on a playthrough on like a kind of like not the best quality camera in the world when playing through the game. So I think you did as best a job as you can to recreate it. It's just that's just on me, but like I really enjoyed that you kind of like did a little mix of both of them in there. So just from the original and just that playthrough. So yeah, that anyways. So yeah, just wanted to clear that part up. My next question is not something that's related to Pied Piper itself, actually, but I noticed your profile picture has a very desired thing that like a lot of kos-mos fans want. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, you're talking about the kos-mos Dolphy Dream. Um,
Yes.
yeah, it's actually a doll, a special fashion doll that I actually have in my possession, and it's my most prized possession I have, I would say, and it's easily the most expensive kind of piece of merchandise that I have. As you know, I'm a long year Xenosaga fan, and especially Xenosaga Episode 3. And when the company who makes these Dolphy Dreams folks announced that they are releasing kos-mos and even version 4, which I just love, as one of these fashion dolls, I just had to get her. That was no question.
It's such a desirable Dolphy Dream doll, too. I don't know if you saw my video about kos-mos. I think it wasn't in the kos-mos tier list video, but it was like in the Xenosaga figures video with Wate. I don't know if you saw that, but we were really talking up a storm about how like desirable that doll is, and you actually having it and getting it like all the way when it was released. Yeah, I feel very jealous now, so I just wanted to say that. So, but yeah, very cool that you have that. Very jealous as always about that. But yeah.
They also released at the back then. They also released the episode 3 version of Momo, which I also wanted to get, but it was just a little bit too much. I was still a student back then, in university, and I didn't have a lot of money, and even getting the Dolphy Dream kos-mos was too much. It was it was just too much, and so I had to just get her, and didn't get the Momo one, but I would certainly love to have that as well.
Yeah, definitely a collector's jealousy right there. just having both. Uh, Going back to Pied Piper now, but regarding questions. So, what was your history with Xenosaga Pied Piper like before taking on the challenge of remaking Xenosaga Pied Piper?
I have to admit, I'm actually one of these people who said back there that Pied Piper is not so important to the story. You just skip it. I was one of these people who say that, and it's partly because I was too lazy to go out of my way and read the story on some wiki myself.
So you felt vindicated just from that time period?
Yeah, exactly. I had to justify myself to not play it, or I couldn't play it, to not actually read that whole story and just look up a short version what happened, and that's it. And now I really dislike that attitude that I had myself
Yeah.
before that, because
No.
I really think it's a very good story, and there are very important parts to the lore. It's still not as important to the plot of Xenosaga, to the mainline Xenosaga, not like A Missing Year. But if someone didn't, they should still go out of their way and play Pied Piper, especially with my version now, which is much simpler and much more streamlined. You get through it much faster than the original. And I think it's a very enjoyable story, and you will understand certain parts about episode 3 more. And I think it just adds to the overall emotional experience of the game, even if it's not directly tied into the main plot.
Yeah, I mentioned that I don't know if I mentioned that in my Let's Play or the Xenochat podcast, but I'm gonna guess my Xenochat podcast. I was literally the exact same way with you. I did not really care about Pied Piper. I didn't think it was important to the main story. However, I do feel like it's important for people who are going through Xenosaga for the first time to get context behind Ziggy before going into episode 3, in my opinion, even though people do say you can definitely play it after finishing episode 1 and before playing episode 2. It's just something that, like, it's recommended by Xenosaga fans and anybody that's has a modicum of playing through the series. So very important stuff. How are you able to get in contact with the members in the Resident Arc Discord server about the fan recreation?
Yeah, that wasn't me. It was Wow. He's to thank for that. I think he's pretty active in the Resident Arc community. He's a big fan of the podcast, and when we were still in development, he advocated over there for people to come and help with our project.
Next question. Since you use RPG Maker for the whole fan translation, what did you use as a substitute for plugins? Since you mentioned in Xenochat that you don't use plugins in the fan recreation.
Yeah, maybe that point of me saying that, going out of my way and saying that, was a bit splitting hairs. What I meant is, if you normally use RPG Maker, it's a very normal thing to you have a very basic RPG game, and if you want to go out of your way and do something like, I don't know, in the earlier versions you wanted to add sprint, which is now a normal thing that's in the game from the beginning, or you want to add a mini map, or you want to add something like these follower NPCs, you would go there and add plugins to your game that do these things, and you don't have to program these things yourself. But in my case, because I am a programmer myself, I didn't need to go and use plugins. And I also, maybe it's a little bit of false pride or something, but one of the problems I had with plugins is whenever I was looking up something, like for example the localization thing, I could use it for the stuff I'm making, but it didn't do exactly what I wanted. And to have this level of having a plugin be as minimalist as possible and do exactly what I wanted to do, I just had to do it myself. So the substitute, you could say, is that I actually went out there and changed the program code myself instead of writing plugins for it. But for some of the features, I think with the music, I tried out to do a little bit of making my own plugins and tried that out. And I could have implemented all the features in little plugins myself, but there was a problem with uploading the game to itch.io, and there was a file limit, and if I added everything in plugins, it would increase the amount of files on my game, and I was already very, very close to the file limit. So instead of making more plugins, I went away from that and just changed the code like I would normally do.
Yeah, I mean, plugins are helpful, but they are, it's interesting that they increase the file size of your game, because all you just do is, like, put this little thing in here, like a mini-map or a character, but they just, end up making the file size much bigger, so it's just more important to just change the code, so, yeah. F the plugins, man. F the plugins. If I were a game developer, I would F the plugins, so...
Yeah, it's not a problem with the size of the files, it's a problem with the amount of files, because you would normally add the plugin as a new file, so it's not much. Maybe it would have been like, I don't know, 12 plugins or something like that in that ballpark. But in the end, when I was close to finishing the game, I really had to look where I could save the amount of files where possible.
Yeah. Very interesting look behind the development side, and, like, you know, I really think you're actually, like, really good with RPG Maker and being able to use the software, and I know you talked about it in tandem in the Xenochat episode, so I won't really ask that question there, but you really know your stuff. You really know your game regarding it, and just changing the code just to add the mini-map and other things as well is just, yeah, it makes it very helpful, so... So, Fox, does your room actually look like this that's in this picture?
Perfect picture. I really wish my desk was as clean as this one.
Okay. I know you probably have your Dolphy Dream nearby, though, right?
No, actually, it's in the living room, and I'm sitting here in our office room. Over here, I just have... Oh, I have a few Xeno dolls, I see. Not dolls, figurines. I see Mio behind me, the Figma.
Yeah, the Figma,
And I
yep.
see a Telos Figma and a Kos-mos Figma here. I actually have a lot of figurines here in this room, now that I think of it. I have a Lum from Urusai. Urusai, what's it called? I forgot. Lam. And I have a Yuna from... I don't know how it's called in English. It's Yuna's... In German, it's Yuna's Geisterhaus. I forgot.
No, it's okay, it's okay.
I love a lot of figurines, but the Kos-mos is in the living room in a display case together with the 2B Dolphy Dream.
Nice, very cool, very cool. But yeah, hopefully you can make your desk look like this someday, with the big monitor in the back and then your two computer monitors in front of you. It's really funny. One of my favorite image edits.
A huge
one of my favorite image edits of you, just with the debug room, and then you have Google in one screen and your Discord in another screen. So that's how I imagined it would look like. So, but yeah.
Okay. If that helps for imagination, I personally, instead of having a multi-screen setup like I have at work, for example, in my private office, I like to have one ultra-wide screen instead.
So basically the screen that's in the back.
Less cable management and...
The screen that's in the back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, maybe not that big, but yeah.
Yeah.
I like to have one single big screen instead of multiple screens.
Right.
Less of a frame and less cable management and stuff like that.
Right. My next question. So what is your opinion on using generative AI to help with the development process of the fan recreation? I know that AI is seen by, like, many people, like, I know a lot of people on the internet, like, they just are seeing it as, like, disparaging compared to like making regular content by developing your games. But I want your take on it. What do you think of generative AI?
Yeah, I myself am also on the disparaging side of things, and we could talk about that topic alone for hours, I think.
I
Um,
know, right? But we have so much. We only have such little time, though.
yeah, but it's not no problem. I think that AI can help you with little small tasks here and there. If you're a programmer these days, you probably already use or have been in contact, at least in the professional space, with Copilot additions in your IDE, and that's what I'm also using from time to time. It's sometimes it's hallucinating a lot and doing very strange stuff, but I think it's helpful to do little small tasks like completing the line of code that you're writing right now, or maybe if you're lazy and want to look something up, it can be helpful there. But for actually generating content that is going to go into your game, I think it's not a very good idea for various reasons. One of the big reasons for me personally are the ethical problems, of course. Um,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, how AI is used especially in creative space, is more or less just a way for certain businesses to go around copyright laws and straight up steal
Right.
stuff from steal the work of others. That's how I think about it. And there are also certain problems. You might think that a generative AI is a good way for small developers like me to actually achieve a lot of work with very little help, like a substitute for actual people helping you. And during the
Mm-hmm.
development of the Pied Piper fan creation, I also tried out techniques here and there and looked if AI might help me for certain problems, like for example, for the big load of translation or stuff like that, or generating images, maybe cleaning up the when I was still making the game, the original game wasn't there, so I wanted to recreate these CG images as well as possible, and I tried to use AI for that, for example. But there are certain problems with AI, especially if you're giving the AI a task that has been done over 1,000 times before, it's no problem. It will probably, like for example, you're a web developer and just want UI with a login screen, for example. You can tell the AI to do that, and it will probably do a decent job and generate something for that. No problem, because that's something that has been there over 1,000 times, and it can look up a lot of examples like that. But if you want to do something very, very specific, like this, for example, like restoring an image, or maybe AI can help with restoration too, but in this specific case, I wanted to restore film footage where the contrast is away and the perspective is not right, and because it's filmed off an LCD screen, and it couldn't really understand or was hallucinating a lot what I wanted it to do. And in the end, that didn't work out, and that is one problem. If you have very specific problems that no one else had, that is very very specific to your own case, that's a big problem. The more complex the workload you give it, the more it starts hallucinating and stuff. And the other big problem is that generative AI is very, very, how should I say it?
It's not like it
Um,
can't replace actual people creating work. Is
Let
that
me
what you mean,
see.
or are you referring to like the quality of AI?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the hallucination problem. But when you're working with an actual person and you give it a task, and give it a task, give him a task.
Yeah, no, them. You give a
Give them
person a
a
task.
give them a task. Maybe they are mistaken or they are unsure 50% of the time, for example. That person will tell you, here's the thing I made, the solution I found, but I'm not sure about it. The AI won't do that. The AI might be right, let's say 80% of the time, which on first sight is much better than 50% of the time, because it has much more data and is maybe more capable and can produce the solution very, very fast and much more accurate maybe. But in the 20% of times when it's wrong, it won't tell you that it is wrong. And that is much more destructive than actually not knowing it for half the time, for example. It will present you these 20% of errors such a sure way. It will say that's it. It won't say that it's unsure or it doesn't know or something. That's what
Yeah.
AI never does. Even though the solution it found is just based on statistics. And maybe it's the example in the context it had. Maybe it's the most likely solution. That may be true, but it can still be the wrong solution because it's missing a lot of information or something similar wasn't there before, and it won't tell you. And that is very destructive because when you have thousands of lines of, like for example, like a translation, you have thousands of lines of translation, and 10 or 20% of that is wrong. But there's no indication what is wrong and what is right. You will spend much more time finding these errors than you would have needed if you just did it all yourself from the beginning. Yeah, that's my experience
Right.
with how AI works. I think, like I said, for small tasks where you can just look it up, look at it, and say, okay, that's a great help. I will take that. It works, nice. But if it's very long or very complicated, very no good idea to rely on AI instead of actual people. Maybe the actual people are slower and maybe they're wrong more often, maybe, but they will at least tell you that they don't know, and that is much more worth much more than what AI does in the moment.
Yeah, perfectly put there. I really appreciate you as a developer who has worked with AI before. Describe like why AI is kind of not the solution to everything, as like CEOs and like people with big money or maybe some governments will tell you about AI. But yeah, it's never the best solution. So I appreciate you like clarifying a whole bunch of things regarding generative AI, and hopefully we can find a future where using AI effectively without the fact that their usefulness in stealing content is not ethically right, but having it be much more effective with people in mind. And that's kind of where I want to see AI go in the future, as a way of not thinking about it being a negative connotation and not having it steal jobs or like do anything else regarding that. So
I think the way it is today, it really can't replace people, and that won't. People say it gets better and better, and it gets better and better. That is true, yes. But there are some physical limiting factors that won't go away with how these large language models work. And I personally would say we already reached the highest highs of AI development 2 years ago, and it might seem a little bit better by now, but we are already far into the diminishing returns area, and I think it's very clear for a long time now that replacing actual people with AI is not a good idea.
All right. Well, we've gone on to this topic long enough, and I feel hopefully you're still sticking with me, folks. Still sticking with me, folks. So, all right. Next question. Ooh, this sounds like a really interesting question. Who is a video game developer that you look up to? It doesn't have to be from Monolith Soft specifically, but we'll answer that question in a follow-up. So,
first of all, video games are obviously a cooperative art form, so I would never say that a video game, except for some very special instances, like something like Undertale or something, which is
Mm.
made by just one guy and their artist friend. But normally, I wouldn't credit just one person. But there are these, I think we call them auteurs, people
Yeah.
who are
Great
who
way.
are said to be responsible for certain games, and I have quite a few of favorites over there. I also have. I would firstly like to name some studios I really look up to. Maybe this is a bit random, maybe, and I'm sure I forget a lot of studios I really love or have played and loved the games of. I really obviously I really love Monolith Soft. I think that's out of the question. But
Yeah, yeah.
I'm also a big fan of Platinum Games. I love Vanillaware. I love Naughty Dog, even though they've become infamous for their crunch culture in recent years. But up to them, I've always been a fan of Naughty Dog. I also love the games of Spike Chunsoft. I'm not sure what the studio is called who makes the Persona games. I know
Atlas.
it was made by Atlas, but I thought that was the publisher, and now the publisher is Sega, or is it still?
Yeah, publisher. So Atlas is the developer and
Ah,
Sega is the publisher because remember Atlas is owned by Sega. So
yeah, that's another one I really adore. And when it comes to these auteurs, I'm a big fan of, yeah, obviously Tetsuya Takahashi. Who would have guessed? um, but I also really love Yoko Taro. I even saw him live once last year. He was in Germany,
Oh,
and I saw him
nice.
on stage. Uh, Sadly, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't wait to get a autograph from him. That was really I was really down about that.
Mm.
I'm also a big fan of Hidetaka Miyazaki, the guy who made Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Bloodborne. Bloodborne is one of my favorite games too. And I also love Swery and Fumito Ueda. Ueda. Yeah, I also wrote down a few of other roles there, of people that I adore. Yeah, yeah. Because of the follow-up question, I will leave out the I will leave out a few, but I also want to give a shout out, a real quick shout out to Nobuo Uematsu, Akira Yamaoka, and of course to Amy Henning too. Amy Henning was in Naughty Dog
Nice, nice.
earlier. But I don't know what she's doing right now, sadly. I
Oh
hear that she had
man.
some failed
Hopefully
projects.
she can get some work or
I hope
something. I
we will get
really that
something from
sucks.
her as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Anyways, going to my follow-up question. So besides Takahashi, which we already talked about, he's involved in pretty much every Xeno game. What is a video game developer from Malisoft or even the original Pied Piper team that you would look up to? So like the Namco mobile team that was
yeah,
mentioned in the original game's credits.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, it's a cooperative art form, and I adore all of them. Obviously, I'm very thankful and don't know a lot of individuals. I'm also a big fan of Soraya Saga's work, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, obviously because of Pied Piper as well. Um, and I'm also a big fan of Choco, the
The artists of episode 2 and 3.
yeah, and also the
As
creator
well as the
of
yeah, the mech
the yeah,
designer for episode 1 as well.
exactly, especially the mechanical parts of Cosmos were created by Choco as well. I really adore the art.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Um, well, I wouldn't say this is another follow-up question. Like, what were your thoughts on Soria Saga's life, like, during when she was making all those rough drafts? Because, like, I feel like Soria Saga is extremely important to Pied Piper's creation in general, and, what are your thoughts about, like, her struggles going into Pied Piper's script creation
Yeah,
or scenario creation?
yeah, I've heard stories, but I honestly don't know a lot about that topic, and
Mm-hmm.
so I can't I can't give a lot of comments over there.
Nah. I mean my video about the history of Pied Piper already lays it out, and like I already think like I haven't really talked about my opinion about it, but man, it's like she struggled way too much. Like people say that like Takahashi needed to be responsible for like everything Xeno related, going up to Pied Piper. Not so much in episode 2 because she only like developed the early script of episode 2, but not like the actual game script. But it's like it feels like she just went through so much crap even in the Xenogears days just to be able to like make a story and make characters. And Pied Piper was basically her baby for ever since Xenosaga was actually conceived. It just feels like she wanted to talk about this story for so long that like
Yep.
it was then ended up to become a mobile title, and then people outside of Japan didn't even get to play it, and it just felt so disparaging in general to have Soria Saga's drafts kind of just be made into the game script, but just were either like not built upon, or it's just Takahashi just decides to put some stuff in there. But it's not like Takahashi like redid her script or anything, because as you know, Soria Saga is Takahashi's wife, and I feel like it would be better just for her to be able to share the story that he wanted to create regarding Ziggy's backstory. And I honestly think she did a good job, but man, it just felt like it just felt like such a depressing time for her, especially at the time where she had to deal with her brother's death as well. I don't want to talk about it too much in this video because this video I don't think this video really needed to talk about regarding the events about Soria Saga's brother's death, but has some retrospectives out there on the Xeno series that talks about the death of her brother. But it just, man, such a horrible story. And then she decided to like leave the project altogether because like she feels like her expertise was no longer needed for the developers, and she had to walk out for herself. It just, you would only like imagine like the amount of depression and stress that she had gone through. So
Yeah.
regarding those things,
I think I'm not in the position to comment about that because I'm just not knowledgeable enough. But what you're talking about, what you say, that sounds really very interesting, of course. And I didn't go out of my way and change that in my game, but I always thought it was wrong that she wasn't even mentioned in the credits of Pied Piper. So I thought it was best thing for the recreation project to at least include her in the special thanks part.
I think so too. Even
Yeah.
though I feel like she probably won't even play the fan recreation herself because I think she's moved on far away from video games and writing altogether.
Yeah, probably.
So it just feels like it was necessary for the fans to give context behind those things in case like anybody asks about like what Soria Saga's involvement on Pied Piper was. So, but yeah, I think we gone too far enough. We got a few more questions actually. Not many questions left, so let me get through them quickly. So, I already discussed Forrest a lot in my Let's Play, but we know he has been a part of the development of the Pied Piper fan recreation, and he congratulated you even on its full release. Did you hear back from him if he ever completed the fan recreation or promoted it on his blog? He ever reach out to you about it? Personally?
Yeah, he played through the whole game, obviously. I think not just once, but like I said, it has some legal reasons that he never went out of his way advocating for the game on his blog.
Gotcha. All right. That's good to know. So my next question is, how do you respond to feedback from people who've played your game at all?
Okay, I hope always positively.
Yeah, I agree too.
uh, I don't know what else to say. I hope that people will never feel that I make remarks in a bad manner or something. Yeah, I'm always just thankful when people play the game, and so I try to always be as positive as possible.
Yeah, I agree too. I think
Or I don't need to try. It's just my natural reaction. If I see someone play it, I'm always happy and always try to support them.
yeah, no problems there. I really appreciate feedback from people. I know a lot of people haven't watched my Let's Play for it. That's the unfortunate part, but I really hope that, like, if any of you have made it far into this video and, like, still think that, like, man, Pied Piper is amazing, like, his fan recreation is great, please leave a comment on my videos about it. I think I really appreciate it. I think, Fox really appreciates it, but I think it's very important to recognize that. Give me a thumbs up on my video as well, and as well as check out Cyclone Fox's game on itch.io and share it around, as I kept saying a lot. So hopefully you all have been doing that, and I really appreciate it. So anyways, my next question: what is your favorite character from Xenosaga Pied Piper? And I also have a few follow-up questions as well regarding the series as a whole, so...
Yeah, probably that has to be Millis, I think. I want to say maybe all of the characters are my favorites, especially at least the main cast, the main four. They are all my favorites. I love them all in their own way. So I think Millis easily has the strongest character arc. So I would say that is my favorite.
Yeah, she's my favorite as well, and she's increasingly become my favorite. Even when I first read the script, she was my favorite character, and then even now, I still think she's one of my favorites and one of the best Xenosaga characters. Speaking of Xenosaga characters, what's your favorite Xenosaga character in general?
Yeah, easy. Kos-mos and Momo. Not so easy. With two N's. It has to be.
Man.
Maybe if I had to choose between the two, I might decide for Kos-mos a little bit. I just think she's so iconic and such an interesting concept of a character, and she has, especially with version 4, she has the best character design for me personally of any medium. But
Right.
Momo was just such a sweet baby. The first that sounds strange. The first time I saw her, I felt with her so much, and it felt like I was very invested in that character very fast. I saw her and I wanted to protect her at all costs immediately. And
No, it's perfectly well
I
put.
really love both of these characters.
Yeah. So actually, my friend Ducky, his favorite character is also kos-mos, but he also likes Ziggy as well. That's also one of his favorites, and I really can't wait for him to play your fan recreation. So
yeah, the whole that's awesome. The whole cast is awesome. Xenosaga is one of these rare series, JRPG series, where I love the whole cast. There's not even one of them who I really dislike or don't want to play as or something like that. Yeah, but I still have my favorites, obviously.
I don't know if you know what my favorite Xenosaga character is, but it's Xion. I don't know if I said it to you before.
Interesting choice. Yeah, interesting. I think...
No, I think she's really connects me so hard. She really clicks and connects with me a lot. With her whole character arc, just basically emphasized Xenosaga as a whole, and like even with if you're talking about like Trankov's past, and even with Ziggy's past as well, I think Xion embodies what those characters could not do, and like they really told it really well all the way through. Maybe not so much in episode 2, perhaps, but in episode 3, I think it really, really comes together.
I wish I saw some discussions about this the other day on some, I don't know, Reddit or something like that, some board, and they were discussing how the next Xeno game should be, etc., stuff like that, all the fun stuff we like to do. And I was thinking I would really, really be happy if the next Xeno game could have a female main character like that again.
I hope so too.
Especially, I think Xion is really interesting. She's an adult woman with a job. She's not like a 16-year-old schoolgirl. Nothing against this archetype of main characters. I'm replaying Danganronpa another episode at the moment. I really like the fact that she's so different from your typical JRPG protagonist.
Exactly, and that's why I like
She
her about it so
yeah.
much. Is she's so
And,
different.
and she's super flawed. She has depression, and it's depicted in such a
A real
realistic way.
way,
It's not
a real
it,
way.
a
Yeah,
real way. It's not depression how you would normally see it in movies or games. It's actually there was a poster where I think I saw a poster the other way where you have a person in the foreground in focus, and under it says something like, I don't know, Tom has depression, for example. And there's in the foreground the person looks sad and all that, and in the background you see a person faded out because of the depth of field, and he's talking to another guy and is smiling and is talking, and a very small arrow says, this is Tom, and the person in the background, because it was meant to bring over the message that depression is not how you think it looks like.
hmm
You can't see if a person is depressed or not, even if they are smiling and they are talking and something like that. It's much more complicated, much more deep. And Shion is such a perfect version of that. I really like it. What's most
right.
telling is her. People make a lot of jokes about it and memes, etc.
hmm
But
Yeah, same here.
what's really telling is the fact that she says "I'm fine" so often in the game.
I hate those
That is a
memes
clear
personally.
sign that oh, it's nothing. I'm fine. Oh, it's nothing. And the next moment she falls over. But
hmm
yeah,
Oh, it's nothing. Oh, it's nothing. hmm Yeah, no, I agree with that wholeheartedly. My second favorite
uh-huh.
character is it used to be Junior, but now it's Ziggy because of this fan recreation. His backstory just makes him like
Yeah,
so much more likable and so like you get a really good feel for him now with playing this, and that's why
yeah,
Ziggy just in the actual story of Xenosaga also like fantastic because like he was able to now overcome that past with being able to spoilers for episode 3, but him being able to confront Voyager again and Lactus revealing himself and showing like the fact that like no, Jan, you have to. What I forgot what Kanan said to Ziggy during that part, but it was something like he needed to. I don't know if it was something about like moving on or something like that, but like you need to confront yourself or something regarding that. Maybe I can share like a clip of that scene here.
You won't be able to come back. Your very existence will perish.
I know, Captain. But it's all right. I don't want to see anyone else I care about die before my eyes. I didn't exist just to watch you die, and I don't want to exist only to betray you. I truly want another reason to exist. I want to protect every one of us. Goodbye, Captain.
Lactus!
But yeah, that's why Ziggy's my favorite, my second favorite character now. So
I think one strong argument I see for people playing Pied Piper in between episode 1 and 2 is that a lot of the cutscenes in episode 2 between Ziggy and Julie, they hit a lot harder if you know the context from Pied Piper. It makes it much more interesting, the way you feel much more of a connection between these two characters who both lost their child and are now talking about it. There's a lot of this indirect talk what Japanese people often do. I really like it.
yeah, same here. So, anyways, my next follow-up question is pretty simple. What do you think about Melia?
She's my favorite in Xenoblade 1. Obviously.
I mean,
But I hope I don't break your heart, but she's not my favorite throughout the whole of Xenoblade. That would be that would go
no!
that would probably go to Pyra or Uni, but I really loved her in Xenoblade 1. And I was so hyped when they actually made an entire DLC episode for her, but in the what was it called, Future Connected, but it
Yeah, Future Connected, yeah.
but it turned out the story turned out not to be as good as I hoped. It
I'm
would
one
be
of those
instead.
Future Connected defenders. I don't care.
Yeah,
I
you
think
are.
Future Connect is amazing. I
Okay.
think everybody who's played Xenoblade 1 should play it because it is very important to know what's going on for not only Xenoblade 3, but like for the rest of the series. So it's play
Probably
Future Connected, people. If you haven't love Melia to your greatest desires, like I do. Come on, man.
probably because
Come
you
on,
love Melia
everybody.
so
You're,
much.
if you haven't subbed to my channel and you like Melia, what are you doing? You should sub to me right now. Like seriously, you really should. Hopefully I'll make
That's true.
something Melia related in the future. So
She's a great character, and I think the original game did her dirty, and she totally deserved that add-on episode.
Mhm.
But I
Right.
just hoped it would the story would have given me a little
right,
bit
right.
more.
And then for my final question, did developing the Xenosaga Pied Piper fan recreation give you an appreciative look at Pied Piper than what you originally thought?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said before, I think it goes without saying. I was one of these deniers who said you don't need to play Pied Piper, and that turned
Mm-hmm.
180 for me, obviously. Uh, and when I watched the playthrough that was uploaded a couple years ago, the translated one from Valak Turtle, I mean, that was the first time I actually read through the whole story. And when I read that, constantly pausing the video because I'm not such a fast reader, and I had to go back and forth and read it. I really thought that inside there's a really deep and compelling story that I didn't know before, and I think there was always at least a hint of that. And when I made my game, I wanted to bring the substance that is below there. I wanted to somehow grab that and bring it up and make it more cinematic with Bob's soundtrack and stuff like that. And I really wanted to present that in a more accessible way to the world, even though it's just a 2D game. But I hope that I accomplished that, and to make it feel more not only accessible but also more like, yeah, what I would call
more playable for people. Yeah, it's the point of remakes, is to basically bring the game into modern times and have it be more playable for people in general. I mean, you put a lot of stuff into it, like quick saving, have the turn-based RPG kind of not just be like it was like in the original, have it be like you have to meet enemies on the fields and make traps, and then you have to fight enemies like just without the nonsense that the original game had in my eyes, but as well as having a compelling story, I feel, as well as having the music to go behind it too. So
yeah, exactly. Not only in the gameplay aspect, I hope that I somehow accomplished what I wanted to do, namely taking the substance that I felt was always there and make it shine and make it, like I said before, like I'm bragging, but I hope I made it feel more. Yeah, it sounds strange, but I hope it feels more cinematic now. More like something you really want to
yeah,
enjoy and watch, and at least the soundtrack from Bob helps with that tremendously.
yeah, no, I agree. So, anyways, we are completely done with this interview. So
Yeah,
I like to thank
yeah,
Cyclone
really
Fox for
scratch.
finally coming on and talking with me, and just enjoying talking Xenosaga Pied Piper and its development with you, a fan recreation. So,
Yeah, me too.
before we go, Cyclone Fox, where can we find you at?
You can obviously find my game at itch.io. I think we there are probably links to that in the video.
Yeah, we do. Yep.
And other than that, you can find my YouTube channel, and where I posted the trailer. I think that's the last thing I ever posted there. I post videos every now every few years or something.
Right.
And I also have a Twitter and Blue Sky account, which I try
Nice,
to go to rather frequently, I hope. But you will
Yeah, me too.
yeah.
I'm always on there.
But if you see me on YouTube or on itch.io, I will probably answer quickly there.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching all the way until the end of this video. I know it's kind of long, but like I really wanted to interview Cyclone Fox about the development of the fan recreation, knowing that I was a part of the team, and I wanted to know more about the development process and his thoughts on the Xeno series in general and Pied Piper. I really appreciate you guys just sitting here, and hopefully all this stuff has been very informational. So until next time, see you on the other side!